Good day, everyone, and welcome to the 21st Century Literature from the Philippines and the world. So, this video lesson is exclusively for the students coming from the Binyan City Senior High School, San Antonio campus. And I would like to share to everyone that we were going to talk about the third week of our lesson for Module 7. Alright, so this is going to be for module 7 weeks 3 and 4. Alright, so later on, as we go on with this topic, we're going to discuss about literary genres. Okay, so before we proceed, of course, to our discussion proper, let me introduce to you first the subject teacher under the 21st century literature, starting with, of course, one of our pretty ladies in Binyan City Senior High School, San Antonio campus, starting with, of course, Ma'am Brigida Saavedra. Next is Ma'am Angelica Manucot. Of course, if you're familiar with her, if she is your teacher, then you know her already. Next is our, of course, coordinator from the English department, and that is Ma'am Gina Tukay, one of the most beautiful ladies from the BCSHS. And finally, of course, yours truly, and the one who's speaking in front of you this day or this week, and I'm John Maverick Galang, but you can call me, of course, Sir Mavs for short. So to make it, a little bit comfy and at the same time a little bit fun, so Sir Mavs. Alright, so this week we're going to talk about the literary genres. So if you may ask me, what do you mean by genres? It's about the variety or the types of literatures. How are they being categorized? How are they being, being sorted based on their purpose? Alright? So we were going to talk about 2 literary genres for this week. But before that, please answer the what I know on your module on page 124. So that will serve as your pre-test. Yes, that's going to be your pre-test for this week to assess if you have any idea or prior knowledge regarding our topic for this week. Alright, so you have to submit that on the retrieval day, and at the same time your distribution of module. I think it's going to be every Saturday if I'm correct. And yeah, we're going to check your outputs, and we're going to check first, of course, the what I know portion, because that is found on your, or that can be found on your weekly home learning plan. So you better check that out. All right, so I have here an illustration. Right, so it is written by Demisha Dean, and it was published 2014. So it is entitled My Freaking Alarm. As you can see here, or if you wanted to go along with me, please open your module 7 and look for My Freaking Alarm. That is after the activity that I wanted you to answer, the what I know page. So I think it's on page 5, the My Freaking Alarm. So you have to check page 5 for this illustration. So if you're there already, so as you can see, there is a girl or a woman, let's say a woman, and an alarm. So it is an illustration, or it's a process while she is sleeping, right? So she started the night laying on his cozy bed, and a very comfy bed, alongside her alarm clock. And then This is a literary structure and the first example of literary genre, and that is the graphic fiction. So, a graphic fiction is a creative piece written in comic form. So, when we say comic form, it is an animated image, a cartoonized illustration of the story. All right. So this is one of the best examples of a graphic fiction. When we say graphic, it is all about visual presentation. So it's either cartoonized, animated, or a drawing or a painting. It depends. As long as it portrays or as long as it gives you the hint of what is really happening based on the illustration presented. All right. So according to the girl, she said there on the first box, as I lay cozy, all sung in my snug rather, all snug in my bed, I enjoy the images inside my head. So from there, she is ready to go sleep already, to go to sleep already, and she's really into dreaming as of this time. So she's excited what to dream. She's excited on what will be the possible nightmare, let's say, or yeah, nightmare or dream that she will experience that night. And then she gets embarrassed, most probably because of the illustration. She covered her face or her head because of the sound of the alarm. And she said there, until I hear rocket beside my bed. It's my 5 o'clock alarm. So mean to say, she gets embarrassed because of the sound of the alarm. Although she wanted to wake up 5 o'clock, I think it's in the morning, but unfortunately she is experiencing, unsatisfaction of I think she's having a lack of sleep. That's why she wanted to extend her sleep for this time, and she decided to snooze or temporarily turn off the alarm clock. So she said there, I quickly silence you for the meantime. And you annoying alarm. Then we snooze together, meaning to say that they're going to be silent for a moment of time. So I think let's say it's 15 minutes or 10 minutes or any short period of time, and let dreams carry on, because I think she's really satisfied with what is on her dreams, and unfortunately she woke up all of a sudden because of the sound of the alarm. So on the fourth box, she said, enjoying the peace, then I'll be darned. It's my 5:15 reminder. So meaning to say, 15 minutes passed and she still don't want to wake up. And she wanted to extend it again and again and again, because she still wanted to continue that very beautiful and fantasizing dream of her rather. So now I hush the ringing of my reminder. Okay, alarm, let's put that behind us. Need to say she already stopped the ringing of the alarm, so she didn't snooze it for the last time. So mean to say she permanently turned off the alarm, and then out of curiosity or out of unpreparedness, let's say, eyes just shut, and she was in a great shock because of the fact that it's already 7:20 a.m. and she's definitely late. Alright? So mean to say, sa kakapatay ng kanyang alarm, patay na patay, namalaya niya na late na siya. So I think it's for the work, or let's say for school, or for something that she wanted to attend that day, which is very important. And it really represents us Filipinos because we are practicing Filipino time, right? So when we say Filipino time, we usually go there 1 hour after the call time. So that is very Filipino culture, right? So, and as you can see here, we have processing questions, and that is below the illustration on your module 7. So please read the first question. How does the speaker feel whenever it rings? So as you can see there, it wasn't specified at all. So meaning to say you have to imagine, or you have to think of the possible answer for number 1 based on the illustration presented. So based on the face of the girl from the first box to the 5th box, what do you think she feels at that time? If you're going to ask me, I think she feels disappointed, and at the same time she feels very happy. Disappointed because she gets disturbed by the alarm, and the next one is happy because she keeps on snoozing the alarm and go back to sleep, right? And for the last box, which is the 6th box, I think she definitely feel a little bit of regret or pagsisisi in Tagalog or in Filipino because of what she had done. So lesson learned: do not snooze your alarm 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes until you regret the time that you were being late for school, or you are late for school. So do not do the same practice as her, right? Okay, the next question: how did she react when she realized that she was already late? For me, based on the diagram, she's in great shock because she is not expecting it that she will be late, and she has a lot of self-confidence that she is thinking that she can make it on time, but look what happened. So it's just a waste of time. You have to regret all the actions that you have made, out of your decisions. Okay, so because of losing the alarm, ayan na late. Ang haba ng oras at isang oras or 2 oras ang kinain ng kanyang tulog. So that is one of the lessons that we need to absorb. We need to be punctual and wake up early. Number 3, would you react the same way if this happens to you? If you will ask me, of course, I will feel the same way because this is one of my behaviors before, and I'm doing this from time to time when I was in college because I'm not a morning person, and I am a nocturnal person, and I can't sleep early in the evening, and it makes me sad. I go to school 3 hours with 3 hours of sleep, and that's really bad for our health. So you don't need to do the same way as how I live my life before. So you have to sleep 6 to 8 hours a day. So please practice waking up early. All right. So let's proceed with the next slide. Of course, what is it? On your module, let's start with the first literary genre, which is the graphic fiction or a graphic novel. So a graphic novel is a comic book narrative that is equivalent in form and dimension to the prose novel, and that is according to Campbell. Okay, so the pictures were arranged in sequence or in image panels based on what is happening time to time, from sleeping until she woke up. So dialogues are written in speech bubbles. So since this is a comic type of literary genre, we are using speech bubbles. What do you mean by speech bubbles? Those who are popping up, or those pop-ups here, for example here, uh, those text appearing on this side, for example, or on this side, and that is definitely what they say during those situations. So that is a speech bubble. So what exactly they wanted to say in that particular situation, just like a comic book, if you're familiar with it. So the illustrations allow the readers to imagine and experience the characters and events in the story. So meaning to say, if there is an illustration, it helps you absorb or comprehend clearly what is going on. It is not purely in text form. Well, in fact, they have to include illustration to help you use your imagination. Aside from the imagination, your comprehension, right? So, from the word itself, graphic, when you say graphic, it has something to do with your vision. It has a visual appeal. And when we say fiction, not based on real life story, something that is imaginary, or something that is not happening in reality. So graphic fiction, an illustration, which is an illustration of, or a, let's say, a diagram or illustration of what is not happening in reality or in real time. Did you get it? Okay. So, ang graphic fiction ay isang narrative na kung saan, isang pagkukwento na kung saan ay ginagamitan ng mga larawan para mas maintindihan ng mga mambabasa. Maliban sa speech bubbles na makikita nyo dito na binabasa ninyong lahat. Alright? So, next slide. So, there are some, features of graphic fiction or graphic novel according to Sing of 2012. So, the number one is there is an orthographic forms are the marks of author's handwriting, which creates an impact that the whole novel is a manuscript, thus provides a sense of intimacy. Why did we say that there is a sense of intimacy? Because you can easily attach yourself to what you are reading with the help of the illustration or the graphical narration. Alright? Number two, graphic novels encourage interactivity in the minds of the reader as he fills in the blanks between image panels. So you are working with your anticipation or assumption, because you can easily look to the next box, let's say, to the next illustration that represents what will happen next in the story, right? Next, number three, filling in the blanks between image panels makes the reader imagine the actions portrayed in the story, just like number two. You can easily identify what will happen next based on the illustration that has been used in the story. Next one, the language syntax. What do you mean by syntax? Syntax meaning grammar. It has something to do with your sentence structure and grammar. And meaning of a graphic novel spring primarily through the relationship between images than words. So most of the time, if you're using graphic fiction, the readers usually focuses on the image, because based on the image used, you can, yeah, just like what I've said earlier, easily comprehend what is really going on that particular scene or situation. And number five, graphic fiction combines book and screen. When you say book and screen, text and images. Alright, simple as that. Alright, so let's proceed with the what is it. So the second literary genre that we're going to talk about. So this is all about flash fiction. When you say flash fiction, it is somehow related or similar with the graphic fiction, but of course they have their differences. That's why they're being separated, right? So this is imaginative literature of extreme brevity. When we say extreme brevity, we are using concise and brief, let's say we are using brief words or sentences, and at the same time concise and accurate words to express the idea or thought of the text that we are reading. So it could range from a word to 1,000 based on, or according to Gakusan of 2018. And it is also known as micro stories. When we say micro stories, small unit of stories or narratives. Alright, so postcard fictions, nanotales, and short shorts. Meaning to say short stories or shorter than short stories, and just like what's on your module, it's also called as nanotales. Short. It doesn't mean nano meaning maliit, but nanotales meaning short. Alright? So here is an example of a flash fiction. Alright. So since flash fiction is a really short written creative piece, usually you can see consisting of a few hundred words, but expresses a lot of idea. So on your module, please proceed with the article or the example for flash fiction entitled The Unlucky Winners. So this was written by Nikki Johnson and was published 2019. And later on, we're going to discuss we're going to answer the processing questions on the next part of the of the examples given on your module. So let's read it together. All right. So each morning, Jim walked to the corner marked off a coffee and lottery ticket. So he always passed Pete and gave the same reply to the jangling of coins. When you say jangling, yung ginaganyan. Half when I win, Pete invariably responded with a tip of his soiled red hat, meaning to say the hat here and then yes, I do agree. So after months, his wife finally convinced him to spend the other half. And home renovations began. So the following spring, of course, working in the garden, Jim unearthed a familiar red. What was that red? The hat of Pete. While lost in astonishment, when you say astonishment, or a feeling of surprise or something, a feeling of surprise to be exact. Astonishment and horror, so I mean to say afraid, frightened, sort of surprise and fear. So the faint smell of her perfume permeated among the roses before. Darkness. Alright. So now let's answer the following question for you to be able to understand the text. because it's a little bit confusing, and you really need to work on with your imagination, because that is what flash fiction is all about. So number one, let's answer the question number one. What is Pete always wearing whenever Jean sees him? So the signature clothes, or let me say the favorite of Pete to wear is his what? Red hat. Something red that is usually used to cover your head. The red hat. Number two, after Jim won, Pete went missing. Who convinced Jim to spend Pete's half of the money for house renovations? His what? His wife, of course. His wife convinced him to spend Pete's share during their, I think it's a game, or they're having a sort of dare, casual game, or let's say a dare, and then because Gene won, they have to, or he has to take the other half, and at the same time, the share of Pete, or let me say, she or he was able to get the share of, or to gather the share also of Pete, because of the fact that Pete went missing right after that time. So I mean to say, Jim was convinced by her wife to spend Pete's share. Well, to be honest, it should not be spent, because it is not Jim's property, or it is not Jane's ownership. So meaning it's for Pete, and you have to keep it while she's gone missing, right? So number three, what is the familiar red Jim unearthed in the garden one spring that made him horrified? She was able to permitted a perfume permitted among the roses before. So darkness, I mean to say, there is, I think, a revenge, or I think Pete is currently angry during that time because of what he did. For what happened to Jim in the end. So meaning to say, there is no exact exact situation that had happened during the, based on the text, right? So we have to imagine, or we have to assume what happened to Jim. So for me, they were able to talk, but not in a good manner. Why? Because they are having a conflict because of what had happened. So maybe they're having a struggle to understand each other, to understand each other's side or their opinion. And I think in the end, they were able to settle it down, and they were able to fix it by having a good communication with one another, because they are friends, and some conflicts are meant to be fixed. And yeah, we have to remember our friends instead of making the conflict much bigger. So that's what my conclusion is, meaning to say, they were able to fix it and settle it down, and became friends once again. So yeah, that is the story of the unlucky winners. I hope you understand the text based on the processing question, because this is somehow tricky, right? This is somehow tricky. If you will not be able to comprehend all the idea on the text, you have to help yourself to answer the processing questions, and from there you will be able to digest all the details and ideas that the text wanted to express or portray. Okay? So if you have questions, feel free to ask your teachers, of course, because this is just about the two literary genres. So if you think you're still confused, feel free to ask your subject teachers regarding some for or let's say for some additional information about flash fiction and graphic fiction. Okay, so according to Sustana of 2020, it's just last 2020, it's from last year. So most of the flash fictions have these common characteristics, meaning to say common characteristics. Number one, brevity. Let me say brevity, concise or accurate use of word choices. So as long as it is short and it expresses that thought very, very well, then it's considered as brevity. So flash fiction presents a story with fewest words as possible. You don't need to use a lot of words, a lot of adjectives, a lot of flowery words just to make it interesting. You have to be straight to the point. Alright? So number two, complete plot. So just like other short stories out there, it is also it also consists of course, the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the story. But it is much shorter than a narrative or a real story, or let me say a novel. So it's much shorter. Short shorts or nano tales. Number three, surprising ending. So the successful hallmark of a flash fiction is its twist at the end of the story. Why did I say so? Because just like what we have encountered on the story back there, the unlucky winners, you weren't able to identify, or it's not stated there what really happened on the end of the in the end of the story, right? So we have to assume, we have to imagine what will be the possible ending of the story. So it is, surprising ending. We are left hanging with clues, and what we need to do is to combine those clues to formulate a successful ending. I hope you get it, and I hope it's clear to every one of you. So let me share to you some examples of flash fictions. So there are three here. I think, yeah, The Angels and the Blueberries by Tara Campbell. So it is a story of various explanations for the color of the sky that involves angels and blueberries. So for the first lines, why is the sky blue? You ask. Well, it all depends on who's answering. So meaning to say, we vary, just like people, we vary based on our perceptions, based on our culture, based on our beliefs, traditions, norms, and values. So meaning to say, if the sky is blue for others, and for others it is orange, it is pink or what, then it's probably the it's probably let me say, or it's based on how people see it, and it is based on where those people came from. So meaning to say, if the sky is orange in your area, and then this is a literal example. So for example, you're living in California and the clouds there or the sky is blue, and then it's blue. But if it is sunset here in the Philippines, it's usually orange. So the sky is orange. So it depends. But if we will apply that in a daily lifestyle of the people or an individual, you need to say it is It refers to, or it is somehow connected to the personality of a person. So parang tao lang siya na pinagdidikit-dikit natin yung mga bagay-bagay depende sa ating mga pinaniniwalaan. So next, Taylor Swift by Hugh Pym Steinberg tells a weird story of how anyone can order a perfectly clone of Taylor Swift at his doorstep. So meaning to say, it is sort of weird story because you cannot order a clone of Taylor Swift not unless you are rich enough. You have the, let me say, the wealth to request for a clone of a popular celebrity. Next, Unnecessary Things by Tatiana Tolstaya. It is a story of finding an old and torn teddy bear. So, unnecessary things, items that do not serve any useful purpose that she adored as a child. So, it's about a thing or things that is not useful for everybody, but she treasured it as something that is gold and precious. So that's an example of flash fiction. So for this time, before we end our discussion for this week about literary genre and literary genres rather, please answer what's more, the activity for what's more, that is from page 10 to 12, and the assessment, please answer that from page 14 to 16. So you have to submit those activities during the retrieval of the outputs for checking, and we are going to give you a grade for that. Okay, so please make sure to submit your outputs on time and follow the instruction of your teacher on what you need to do and follow during the submission of your outputs. So thank you very much everyone for listening, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact or talk to your, or feel free to ask your subject teacher via Facebook Messenger or even in text message if you have their number. And I hope this video lesson helped you to at least understand the topic for this week for, just a moment of time. So I hope you learned at least a little of the information that I have that I was able to give to you this day, and we will see. I'm going to see you once again next week for another video lessons and for another lesson and topic. So this ends my video lessons, and I hope you are safe and you're healthy and you are in good condition. And please always pray and do your responsibilities as students so that you'll be able to gain grades that are very satisfying because you worked hard to earn that grade for the second quarter. So thank you and goodbye.